Welcome to this UFC 324 main card preview video prediction. Getting straight into it, Arnold Allen versus Gene Silver, great fight. Arnold Allen coming off a bit of a layoff. Not really been that active. Has been out since 2024 July, but he's coming back against a real tough fight, a real top end of the division. Really will show, is he up there or is he not now? Gene Silver really did very well against Lopez in the last fight. May have lost, but Lopez going on for a title shot as well really showed Gene Silver had him hurt. Actually, I think Gene Silver lost round one when he got put on the ground, but on the feet was hurting Lopez before the finish clearly, and got caught by something by just not, again, a shot Lopez was firing off for a chance, and look, he timed it and everything like that, but in another world that misses and Gene Silver carries on to probably will definitely win the round in that sense, and we see for the third round what happens. But do I think Lopez wins that fight? Yes, I think he does. The round three, he plays smart and gets him down. But look, does he get out the round? I think Gene Silver having very hurt several punches, several different times in that sequence. So great fighter on the feet. I think it's going to be tough for Arnold Allen to come back in against a Gene Silver. That's a tough ask for any fighter off a bit of a layoff. And look, Lopez kicks really did damage to Silver early. I think that was key in round two. He then caught Gene Silver, then caught Lopez, but them leg kicks were helping Lopez then get the takedown early on in round one. Gene Silver, great kickboxer. I think it's tough to get past him really on the feet. I don't think there's many in that division who, the overall game isn't fully there for Gene Silver. Like a Lopez will beat him because he can mix it up. But a kickboxing fight, Gene Silver wins against, I think, pretty much anyone in the division, or could do, at least makes it very, very competitive, and both sides get hurt maybe. You sort of saw that in a Lopez fight where Gene Silver was definitely, I think was definitely better than Lopez on the feet. I think Arnold Allen coming in, won against Chikadze, but had lost to Evloev and Holloway in the previous two, and I think post that, so in the last three fights, got two losses, coming off a layoff. But in a sense, think about them names. Chikadze beats Evloev, Holloway he doesn't. Really shows that top end of the division, or that them top prospects in the division below the champion are beating him, but he's beating people below that. Look, and the key question is Gene Silver a top end of the division? I think he is, and I think on the feet he's one of the best out there, if not the best in the division. So I think it's hard for Arnold Allen to get anything from this fight. He's going to stand up with him. I don't see much else from Arnold Allen in that respect. I think he will stand with Silver, and I think if he starts doing that early, he's not going to switch up his game fast enough, to be honest, I believe, to get a takedown and to change it up. I think he's going to get hurt before that, and suddenly that starts becoming a real problem where you're rushing in. And I think Gene Silver gets the KO TKO in this fight. I think he's too strong on the feet for most fighters who aren't literally champion contenders in this division. I would say he's at top 4 or 5 in the division, and on stand up. If it was just purely stand up in the UFC, he'd be likely first, maybe second in that division. Anyway, getting on to the next fight, Acosta versus Lewis. Obviously, a great heavyweight fight. Acosta had great 5 fights in 2025. Lost one against Pavlovich, which look, Pavlovich is a great fighter. He may have lost some fights, but look, he's a tough fighter. Now back early 2026, which look at that work rate. And in my previous videos, that work rate is key for me. I think I'd love to see it. It makes me a real fan of a fighter, seeing multiple fights in a year. But to have 5 incredible work rate. Okay, yes, he's for sure KOing people early and getting fights out there quite quickly with no damage to do that. But look, that it shows intent to wanna get in there. It clearly wants to, the money and wants to earn it. But yeah, look, that's the point. That's what the UFC is. That's what boxing is. It's prize fighting. You're fighting for a prize. Get in there. We'll try and win the prize. Pavlovich, look, he lost against him, but I still see Pavlovich as quite a strong heavyweight in that division. Amazing to see his fight, so many fights in a year. Yeah, incredible work. Did get hurt in that fight against Pavlovich and was countered very well, which is just a concern for me that Pavlovich is a good fighter and, he may have lost some fights, but he's very strong. But the counter, and he was getting countered very, very well in that fight, which is a concern going in against a big fighter, again like Lewis. Which he just needs to be careful. I think Lewis has amazing power, and if you give him a shot, he will take it. He's experienced enough to take it to get you get a shot on. He was going over his front foot, which Pavlovich basically threw an uppercut, which stunned him. Look, that could go either way, Pavlovich or Lewis. It doesn't matter in the sense of which fighter it is, but against either experienced fighter, Pavlovich, it stunned him, it didn't drop him. Against a Lewis, suddenly that punch comes in slightly different, it knocks him out straight off the bat. I think that's the problem. I think he needs to be very careful. Sometimes very shots that are, you're going over your front foot, your technical parts of your kickboxing or boxing are, he's doing things technically wrong, which will get him caught. Which I think he's got to be very careful, because he could easily win or be the better fighter in a fight and just get caught with something big, especially in the heavyweight division. I think he gets it done now. I think Lewis, he's at the back end of his career. He's coming into a fight with Acosta. He may have been beaten by Pavlovich, but I think Pavlovich is quite a significant step on from Lewis. I think Acosta's learning. He's going up the division. Hopefully he starts ironing out some of them technical problems he's got, where just the technical aspect of his game is lacking. That will get him caught at some point. But I think Acosta, look, he's doing well. He's active. He's looking to win. He may be beat by Pavlovich, but he's had 5 fights, and that was in the middle of them. So that was his 3rd fight of the year. So he's had 2 other wins now, coming in probably with a good confidence from them 2 fights. And against Lewis, he'll want to get that name on his resume and get the KO win. And I think he does. I think he's too fast. Over 3 rounds, he'll be able to push a pace that Lewis won't be able to deal with. And in a sense, once he slows Lewis down, hopefully the counters will come in from him when Lewis tries to swing. And I think that's how he gets it done. Lewis tries to go for something or even think about something, and Acosta's already there with punches. I think a great fight, and I hope Acosta gets it. It does well in the division. I think I always hope with fighters who are that active. Firstly, they stay active and can do without injury, and they do well because they deserve it. They're providing 5 fights a year is incredible. Run rate of and want for fights in a year can only be positive, and I hope he gets rewarded for that. And that shows fighters coming up that look, you will get rewarded for that type of thing, and hopefully he gets good fights, and hopefully the reward by fight and contract is decent for him, because that's what we want in the UFC is that type of work rate. That is extreme, but get a couple fights at least in a year if possible. Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. First off, just going for a little 5 inches of reach advantage for O'Malley. That's very positive for him. That's a big reach advantage. O'Malley last fight lost two of his last fights against Dvalishvili. But before that, he's beaten most of the division, to be honest. He was the only real challenger left. Song has come off a win against Cejudo, who, to be honest, is really past his best. He got beaten by Peter Yan in over 3 rounds, but Peter Yan now champion. Sean O'Malley beat him, but is he the same Yan as he is now? Maybe, maybe not. I think Yan is really stepped on, if I'm being honest. Going to be tough for Song to beat a 5-inch reach advantage against someone who's so technically great at boxing and kickboxing. Sean is very good on the feet and is beating Yan on the feet. If Yan maybe changed it up slightly more, if he faced him now, maybe that changes. But Sean needs a win. He needs the confidence back. He's lack of activity after those, nothing really doing in them fights against Dvalishvili, beat him by far, I feel. And he needs a win. He needs a win. He needs to get back on there, get some fights under his belt that he wins. And Chung Dong, look, he's a prospect coming up. I think this is probably too soon for him. I think the speed of O'Malley will catch him quite quickly, and he will probably come off this fight going, look, there's things I need to improve in the gym, and that top champion prior, ex UFC champion in the division, it will show you where you need to be to challenge a UFC champion. So look for Song, it'll give him that experience in an actual UFC ring against a former champion. But I see it being too much for him at the speed, the reach advantage. I think O'Malley's he'll get a decision. I don't see him finishing Sung Yadong. I think he's defensively sound enough. But I see Sean piecing him up, and you see some combos going in, and you go, whoa, okay, that caught him where he didn't even see it coming. And I think that's what Sean shows, and hopefully, look, if he does, it's the Sean O'Malley back again, because look, we need people who are exciting in divisions. We need people who can speak on press conferences, make people want to watch. And Sean O'Malley's one of those, especially when he's top of his game, and he's getting up the division. He's challenging for championships. He is that. In a sense, and not in the same way, I don't think, but the Conor McGregor effect, where he makes people want to watch, and I think that's key. I think we are missing out on them type of fighters in the UFC currently. I think there's a lack of those, and yeah, especially I would say, yeah, I hope Sean gets back there, because he is that type of guy who will push the sport on and make people get new fans in, because he is exciting. On to the main event, Gaethje versus Pimblett. Gaethje still recently only lost to the best in the division. You're thinking about Khabib, Oliveira, Holloway in that fight, but look, I think they're the top end. They are the top end, and I think so. It'll be a real tester. It'll be a real tester for Pimblett if he could really go up and challenge for a title soon. I think if he beats Gaethje in good fashion, he'll probably have one more fight, and he's facing Topuria. If that sort of works out with any other fights that are happening, we're talking about Makhachev and things like that. But I think, to be honest, Dana will want to try and keep people in their divisions and fighting in their divisions before that super fight is made, which will probably be Pimblett. If he does really show in his next, probably this fight and another fight, if he really does great performances, look, I think that gets made. It could even be made after this fight if there's a real good performance here, with the bad blood between Topuria and Pimblett. But look, key for Pimblett, it's a massive step up, I think, from the fighters he's been fighting. He's faced Chandler in his last fight, King Green in his fight before that, and really, are they at the level of Gaethje currently? No. I think Gaethje's only lost to the best in the division, and he's still beating people. So I think Pimblett's got to be really careful in this fight. I do get concerned in this fight, especially that Pimblett leaves his chin open. We saw Chandler caught him at least once with a great shot. Pimblett just chin in the air, caught him, and with a Gaethje, would he be going down? I think he would. I think he would be dropped with that type of punch if it wasn't Chandler who, was sort of backing off and things. Gaethje throws a punch with intent, and with intent to KO you, that would drop you in that position. And I think that's key. I think that is a real problem in this fight with Pimblett, that he leaves that chin open, I think, too much at the top level, if I'm being honest. I think, though, if Pimblett fights correctly and does well and realises and doesn't overestimate himself and try and go, I'm going to stand toe-to-toe with a guy who he's really confirmed himself as a stand-up guy. He's got KO power. He's been doing this is his bread and butter. Pimblett needs to look. It's a 5-round fight. Get him to the ground, wear him out a bit, and then look, use your stand-up by all means later on, but understand the danger, don't get hurt, play a smart fight, and that will really show, for me at least, him having a smart game plan and using it in the cage and not just standing toe-to-toe with Gaethje would show me he's probably more ready than I think. I think there's still some things in his game to iron out. That the chin being up like that. I mean, Oliveira, Chipuria, top end of that division will find that quick. That's my key problem with him at current. But look, he's big for the division. If he uses his size, he gets the takedowns where he knows he's better than Gaethje, I think he does well. And I think it's hard. I think if he tries to stand toe-to-toe with Gaethje, his chin's going to get found, and it's going to be up in the air. It's going to get found relatively well by Gaethje over 5 rounds. It will get found at some point, especially when Pimblett's getting tired. But I do think Pimblett, if I had to choose, and it's whether does Pimblett use the game plan that he probably should do against a Gaethje, or does he not? And I think he does. I think he will realise the danger there. He will play smart, and hopefully he's ironed out a little bit. It won't be perfect, but some of that up in the air chin, some problems on the feet where hopefully he won't get caught before he can get Gaethje to the ground in a couple of rounds. I think that's what he needs to do. A couple of rounds of ground, taking him down, getting him thinking about the ground, going, I've lost 2 rounds against Pimblett, keeping him there, and then really using that size, using that reach to jab at Gaethje and make him miss. That's what I would do. I think it's that key point. Make Gaethje miss, make him move, make him throw shots, and when he starts getting tired, laboured shots, catching round, even taking him down from laboured shots would making him think about more than just kickboxing, because in a sense, if it's against Gaethje's always got an equaliser in that style of fight. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.